Spooky, spooky, spooky. Look at that project. What do you think about that? So clearly, we're gearing up. We're moving toward All Hallows Eve with this project. And what is today is the 8th, right? So you've got time to do this because this is primarily home center stuff. There's one thing that if you want it, you got to order or find a place for it. I'll show you that. But there's some neat stuff going on here. This is a pretty simple to make project. It's a pretty cool decoration. They can live outside. So I can see these being stacked on your deck in your driveway or whatever. And I think this would be a great spot to get kids involved with what you're doing. The process is simple. It's just a box. And if you, instead of oiling them like these were, I'm going to talk more about that. If you did some painting on these, then that's where the kids could get their hands on this literally and have paint all over their hands. So let's look at what's going on here so you understand the big picture, and then we'll dial in and step by step I'll show you how to make one of these things. So I've got two different examples going here. This is cedar that I bought from Home Depot. This is plywood that I had in my garage. Either one will work for this. Clearly this is finished naturally. This has been painted. I found a very specific paint that's very orange color, and that is spec'd for you in the PDF, in the plans. Let's talk about the plans for a second. If you're going to do this, you got to get this. There are 3 different sizes here. The cut list for all 3 sizes is in there. Maybe even more importantly, these shapes are in this. So what you'll end up with, I'm going to switch cameras here so you can see. When you've got the plan, you're going to end up with these, and it's a little faint from my printer, but that is the face on there of the small unit, the face on there of the medium, the face on there of the large. Now, an important part of this, if you're an electronics kind of guy like I am, or gal, if you have a CNC, look at that banner right there, download the DXF file. So with this plan, I have provided the DXF file, the vectors of those face shapes. So if you want to do this on a CNC or with a Shaper Origin or anything electronic, that stuff is there. So grab the PDF. You got to grab the PDF to make sure that you have all the info that you need. Now with these guys, the way they work is that, like I said, we're building a box, but then that part of the box comes off. And in terms of the ordering that I talked about, that's the one potential thing you have to either go to a craft store and find, or we've got these sourced for you in the PDF. And the deal with that is it's a little LED light. When we're all done, I'll load these with lights. When I'm done working, I'll load these with lights and turn the overheads off so you can get an idea of what they look like. But that lives in there, and then that goes back on there, and that gives us a little spooky pumpkin look. All right, let's look at what we got to do to make this happen. Step 1 is easy peasy. Step 1 is cut all your parts to size. Again, when you grab the packet and download that, the cut list for all of the stuff is in there. You don't have to use Western red cedar like I am. I like a couple things about it. I love how it smells. And I think as a finished pumpkin, it's got kind of a pumpkin look to it. This has nothing on it but an outdoor sealer. So when the cedar looks wet with that sealer, it looks kind of like cedar looks wet with sealer. It looks kind of like a pumpkin. So that's one of the reasons I like cedar. But again, if you can't get it, this is the paint grade version of that. And we'll talk more about that. So here's what's going to happen here. Print out the face. And again, there really are lines on there, just hard to see. So print out the face. I'm currently working on a medium. And then the easiest way to do this is with cedar. That's a rough sawn face. That's a smooth face. I'm going to use spray adhesive. We've got this sourced for you as well. I'm going to use spray adhesive. And do this on the smooth face, on what's going to end up being the inside of your pumpkin. And the beauty of that is two things. One, that paper is going to stick better to the smooth face than the rough sawn face. Two, we don't have to care about this on the inside. You don't have to worry about going back and peeling this paper off and getting every bit of it off because we're on the inside. So now we've got a bunch of shapes. We've got a bunch of inside shapes. The easiest way to deal with this is clamp it. I'm going to work on that eyeball. Drill a hole so you have access. Then grab what we used to call a saber saw. Grab a jigsaw. Start in there. Now, I don't want to bore you to tears. I'm not going to cut every one of those out because we'd be here forever. But on the outside, that's where we're going. What's nice about this is, yes, we're using a handheld jigsaw to cut it. And if it's a little bit irregular, then it's handcrafted, custom made, no two alike. We're cutting out a pumpkin face. So don't pull your hair out worrying that these got to be absolutely perfect, perfectly following my lines, because it's a pumpkin face. So you can either use my template or not use it at all and create your own look on here altogether. Or as you're cutting, change these shapes a little bit. Let that, let your freak flag fly, man, and do whatever you want to do there. I'm going to take a second and look for questions. So while I'm looking for questions, boy, has the weather changed the last 4 days. Sunday, it was 90. Monday, it was 60 for the high. The overnight lows here are now 40-ish, working toward overnight lows of 30-ish. So, and as far as I'm concerned, way better weather. This is the best time of year for me. I love fall. Flannel shirt weather. So to revisit a couple things, if you missed it, download the packet. The cutting list for everything is in there. The shape I just cut, small, medium, and large face shapes, they're all in there. And then there are also links in there for DXF files, so that if you want to computer-driven cut this, you can grab the DXF files and do it that way. And then the stuff I'm using the little LED light that I showed you, the spray adhesive, and the orange paint, all of those are sourced in there for you. So you got to have one of these. Now, what you're going to do is cut out a face. Through the magic of working ahead, I have cut out a face. I've said a couple times, all we're doing is building a box. So I've got two sides, a front and a back. And this part's easy peasy. I'm using an outdoor glue, Titebond 3, so that these can in fact live outside and I don't have to worry about them. Put these together by whatever means you like, whatever means you have. I am using 1 1/4 inch crown staples. And I like it because it's fast. Whoops, it's easy. Rough side up. But you got kids involved. Go to a home center and get 4 penny box nails. Those are little galvanized nails about that big. And the kiddos could be nailing these together. All right, 6 more of those and we'll have this part done. Now, we need this. We need this box because when you look at one that's done, we want to be able to do this. You got to make that noise. So when this goes back on, we need thingies on the bottom to register where that lives. We're going to do the thingies now. So sequence matters because you got to build the box first, center the box on the base like I'm doing now. And then I'm going to grab a pencil and go inside the box and I'm tracing these inside edges onto this so that I know where those retainers go. And again, in the packet, there's a cut list for all these parts, including the little retainer gizmos. When you put these in now, they just live on the inside of those pencil lines. An 1 1/4 inch staples work because if you're using 3/4 material, they won't go through. I'd like to not staple this to my bench. And whether you're doing cedar, like I am now, or a paint grade, it doesn't matter. The sequence is the same. The build sequence is the same. Once these are in, this can come back on. He says, live television. Oh, it's going to go. I can see it. It's just being a pain. All right, I got to cheat that one just a little bit. With the beauty of a hand plane. So when you're doing yours, don't do it live as a live stream, and take your time a little more than I did putting these blocks on. I got myself in too big a hurry. There we go. That's not just better, it's way more better. Then for the top, this is easy. Bloop, just like that. That's going to get centered and glued. And when I'm doing something like this, I mean, this is an outdoor pumpkin. My centering is coming from, I'm feeling the overhang and the overhang. Just do this tactily, and I can feel it's the same on both sides. Then I go this way, and I feel it's the same front and back. If I was building a bookcase for my house, I'd get out a ruler and I would measure this. But on something like this, let your fingers do the walk and just hit it with your fingers. I do want to make sure I get the staples in the right spot. So I've set this to the overhang on that side. That shows me that's the edge of my material. I'm going to double check it for that side. Cool. Let me peek for preguntas again. Are you a Halloween dresser upper? Okay. Now, Michelle says, I think it's great to see a little mistake. Now we know an easy fix. Thank you for being gracious about it. That tight fit didn't happen on any of these. And then I got going too fast. But yeah, if this happens to you where it's too snug, A hand plane or a little sandpaper is going to fix that so that they slip together. Well, at the end of the day, that's the end of the day. So once it's built, once you're this far, and the cedar one, mine have that Thompson product, Thompson water seal, Thompson deck seal, whatever it's called. That's what's on these. That's what gave them this color. If you're going paint grade, again, this one, that's just everyday plywood that I use for that. And it's kind of cool in that, let me come back to this. When the paint hit it, the grain shows through, and I like that. It gives it a little texture, like a pumpkin. If you're going this route, I found that paint, and this is sourced for you in the packet. So this, I thought, was a pretty darn close pumpkin looking paint. Again, if you had kids involved, I could see maybe you do this orange base coat, and would it be like black stripes to kind of make it look like the segments of a pumpkin? I don't know. But I think there's a lot of stuff that could happen here, like with kids involved, to do a bunch of different stuff. Now, let me get ahead of a potential question, which is they don't have stems. Where are the pumpkin stems? I very, very intentionally didn't put stems on, because if they were stemmed, one could not stack them. And I think as a decoration, that's kind of cool. That's why I made 3 different sizes, so that they're graduated. If you want to put stems on yours, you be you. The other thing that happened here, this is called out in the PDF, is all the corners were rounded over with a 1/4 inch round over bit. I did, on the one that I built live, I did that to those pieces pre-assembly. So rounded over. The outside corners here are rounded. That's rounded. That's rounded. And it just makes that, I don't like leaving hard, crisp corners really on anything I build, and especially something that's going to live outside. I think your end result is better with that round over on there. So your mileage may vary. You can do that if you want or not. But it's like I said, that is called out in your packet. I am just about wrapped up. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to load these with lights, and then I'm going toward a point where I can turn my shop lights off so you can see what they look like. So if you have any other questions on this project, this would be the time to ask. Also, 4 o'clock Central Time today is the standard Q&A that I do once a month. So I'm going to still be here at 4. If you've got general woodworking questions, or if you build these between now and then and you have questions, come back at 4 o'clock, and I will do what I can to provide reasonable answers to your questions. And I'll say, I don't know, if I don't know the answer to your question. So I've got 3 of those little LEDs. I don't have one for the orange, but they're all going to look the same. Before I get out of this, I'll look for questions one more time. Glenn says, this is great. I plan to build them with my grandkids. Very good. Mark asked, were you able to find cedar wide enough at a home center to do glue ups? No, they had, so Home Depot here in Western Wisconsin had plenty of cedar for this, and they were full width. I just, I ripped to size. I didn't have to do any glue up. If everything were resized, box, template, etc., how about using cedar fence pickets? Sure, I use what you got. I mean, this is a fun, kind of loosey-goosey project. It's a good place to use scrap. That was a little bit of the drive with this one. is because it's just plywood. Who really cares what it is? Part of the reason you can see the grain so much in this one is because that's just CDX. That's basically building construction plywood. So yeah, use whatever you got and rework the design and the plans as you need to in order to make that work for whatever you're using. All right, let me kill some lights so you can get an idea of just how cute these things are. First, my studio light. And then the shop lights. There's a lot of just ambient sunlight in here. Look at that. That looks pretty good. Yeah, they look great in there. And what I like about these lights, they're spec'd for you on Amazon, but they flicker like a candle. They're not just on. I love that they flicker. All right, I'm shopping questions one more time. You know, I love when the lights are off in my shop because that's when my projects look the best. The darker it is, the better my woodworking looks. I made a couple of these earlier this week with a couple grandkids. I chose to put the positioning cleats on the top versus the bottom. That way you just take the top off and reach in. Sure. Yeah. So just like this, but upside down. And then the other benefit to that, Denon says, is you don't end up with these pinholes, the holes in the top, because you're doing, it would look like this. And then to mess with your light, you would take what I built as the bottom, is now the top. Come on. It's another tight fit. So then you could do your light and put the top back on, and there are no holes in it. That is the cool thing about woodworking, one of the cool things. There are 11,000 ways to do everything. So don't forget today, and Michelle says, thank you so much. Love these. I'm glad you do. That's Jess, who's behind the boards, told me I had to do a Halloween project. I'm joking. She suggested we do a Halloween thing. So I'm glad this worked out as well as it did. At 4 o'clock today, I will be back here to answer your general woodworking questions, 4 to 5 Central Time. It looks like we are wrapped up on questions. So we'll just close with spooky pumpkins. And from there, Jess, you can punch us out.